I wonder why nothing exciting ever happens around here. This is Hessonite Garnet. There are no fractures in the stone as best as I can tell, but there are bubbles, which is characteristic of Hessonite. Hessonite Garnet is a unique gemstone which is noted for having internal bubbles. These bubbles give most Hessonite Garnet a honeycomb appearance, although you can sometimes find perfectly clean Hessonite, but it's very difficult to find. Most Hessonite Garnet that I've seen is of cabochon grain, not really fast grain. And that's because often there are internal fractures in addition to the bubbles or honeycombs. In my experience, most larger pieces of Hessonite are normally fractured. But this piece is pretty clean. Well, clean with a lot of bubbles, but clean as in no fractures. As far as color goes, Hessonite Garnet has a narrow range of color going from honey orange to brownish red and generally considered cinnamon color. I generally don't cut Hessonite. Maybe I've cut a piece or two long ago, I can't really recall, but I am interested in fastening this piece of Hessonite just to see what a honeycomb piece of Hessonite with no internal fractures and great color looks like. So I'll just consider this a test to see what the final gemstone looks like. So wish me luck. For a design based on the shape of this rough, I decided to use this design called Shallow Pavilion by Long & Steel, and they've created quite a few gem cutting diagrams for cutters to use over the years. This design can be found on the United States Fasteners Guild, or USFG website, where the good folks at the USFG are working to capture as many open source gem fastening diagrams as possible, putting them all in one place for cutters to consider using. Thank you, USFG. Now, I have cut other gemstones in this design before, and it is one of my favorite designs, so let's see how it works on this Hessonite. Okay, I've preformed the Hessonite Garnet with my 320 grit, just a topper, just to kind of shape it, preform it. So I can't really tell how the final color is going to be, how vivid that orange is going to be yet. But now I'll go over my stone with my 600 grit sintered lap. That'll clean up the facets, line them up much better, and then I'll have a much better look at the color and the interior of the stone. So let's move on to the 600 grit sintered lap. Okay, so there's no fractures in our stone, but there are bubbles that are characteristic of Hessonite Garnet. So I think the color is going to turn out very nice, but it's not going to be a internally flawless stone. I don't think that's hard to find with Hessonite. So what I'm going to do is, it's right now it's almost 11 millimeters, but I'm going to, but it's under 11 millimeters. I'm going to bring it down to 10 millimeters. I'm going to lose some rough doing that, but it's not a big deal. Again, I'm just testing out this Hessonite, so this is kind of a test piece. So I'm going to bring it down to 10 millimeters, and that'll put it in a standard mounting for BOPIE'S store. She won't have to design the mounting for this. She can if she wants, but with it being a 10 millimeter, there's plenty of mountings out there. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll use my sintered lap, my 600 grit sintered lap, bring it down close to 10 millimeters, and then go with my 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap and work it from there. Okay, I've pre-polished our Hessonite with 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap, and the color's beautiful. You can see there's bubbles in it, characteristic of Hessonite, and no fractures, which is good. So to polish it up, I could use diamond, which I've been using a lot lately, diamond, 50,000 grit diamond on a bat lap, but I think in this case I'm going to use aluminum oxide on a tin lap and see how that does. So I'll polish it with that and see how this bottom half turns out. Alright, our garnet polished right up with aluminum oxide on a tin lap. No issues at all, so I'll transfer the stone and we'll cut the upper half. Okay, I've gone over the upper half of our Hessonite garnet with my 600 grit sintered lap,
And now I'll go over it again, all the facets with the 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap, tighten them up and get the meet points to meet, and then we'll be ready to polish. So there are bubbles in the stone, characteristic of Hessonite. It's not internally flawless, so there is that, but the color is pretty good. So I like the color. It's a kind of a brownish orange, very nice. But let me see what it looks like after we go over these facets again. Okay, I've started using the 3000 grit diamond on the bat lap, and you can pretty easily see the difference between facets that are where I've used a 600 grit sintered and facets where I've used a 3000 grit diamond on the bat lap. So I'll go over the entire top of this stone with the 3000 grit diamond, and then we'll be ready to polish, and the color is starting to come out very nicely. Okay, the upper part of our Hessonite Garnet, the upper part of the crown, polished right up with the aluminum oxide and a tin lap. There was no issues at all polishing it. So now I'll soak the stone and the dop in acetone, remove the dop from the stone, and we'll be able to weigh it, measure it, and send it off to BOPIE.
So today I cut this beautiful piece of Hessonite Garnet kind of as a test. I wanted to see what a honeycomb piece of Hessonite looked like in a faceted stone. Now after cutting this gemstone, I gotta say I like the effect of those bubbles or honeycomb. To me, the final gemstone looks awesome. A truly unique gemstone. My opinion is that Hessonite with these characteristic bubbles is quite facetable as long as you avoid the Hessonite with fractures, and it produces a beautiful gemstone, and I do recommend you give cutting Hessonite a try. Hessonite cuts and polishes with no issues, and this design is straightforward and suitable for any cutter. I recommend you give this design a try, and please let me know in the comments what you think of faceting Hessonite, as well as what you think of this design. And as always, happy faceting, everyone.